film history, we learned a lot of film movement through decades. You can see that we are showing you a very old movie. What is this film? And what is it about? I'm Amirul Mukmin and my groupmates Iman Nuha, and this is about the early period of Russian cinema, Soviet montage. Let's do a quick recap about the history of Russia. After defeating the old Tsarist rule in favor of Utopia, the Soviet montage movement emerged in the 1920s. The most powerful empire in the world at the time, the Russian Empire, gave revolutionaries the challenge of spreading their ideas throughout a wide region. Film provided a particular creative medium for this design in the form of its artwork. As a result of their eagerness to experiment with the form of art sanctioned by the Soviet state, the early Soviet filmmakers produced a large number of films. For Soviet planners, creating an entirely new society, one based on the theories of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, well, you know who they are, became a frightening challenge. After World War I, the Soviet Union found itself immediately involved in civil war, where the new regime usually put down any protests with great bloodshed. Right before the Soviet era, the Russians were living in oppressed. They were forced to work overtime with very low wage. The Russians were unable to openly criticize the in-charge regime without immediately being put to death. After years of oppression, they started to realize that they could fight back against the current regime. They need the numbers in order to confront their oppressor. That when people started to use any media to promote propaganda or get the numbers they require. The filmmakers at the time, such as Boris Barnett and Vsevolod Pulovkin, benefit from the new technology. Filmmakers in France and other nations employ cinematography as entertainment, whereas in Russia and Japan, the technique is used to disseminate propaganda. The filmmaker is in crisis because they don't have the resources to make film within the time. Because of that, film industry lack the resources required to produce a film. It affects the filmmaker a lot, but they do not easily give up. They use the film reel that already been used to create a scene. They just combine a certain scene with another different scene to create a new scene. This technique is called the Kuleshov effect. The Kuleshov effect is only frequently used in Russia since that nation uses the film industry as a way of disseminating propaganda. It forced the ruling government at the time to control film production in the country. Some of the filmmakers at the time have no choice but to flee to other country to carry on with their career. Meanwhile, the other carry on with the Kuleshov effect while in Russia.
The House of Trubnaya is a 1928 comedy film directed by Boris Barnett. The story revolves around a girl Pasha who moved from the countryside to live with his uncle. But now that she's gone to Moscow, her uncle has returned to their village. With freeze frame and backward motion, the director introduced Pasha, the main character. The first scene in the flat reveals the wide variety of personalities. After couldn't find his uncle, Parasha went to Golikov couple to find a job as a housemaid. Mrs. Golikov was then asked if she was a union member, and she said yes. Because of that, she didn't get the job. The reason why Golikov couple wants to find someone who is not a union is because if they mistreat them, no one will help them to find a justice. They also believe that they will not be reported. Because this is propaganda film, the mise-en-scene in the term of setting and costume was very realistic. Boris Barnett used variation type of editing. For instance, its freeze frame, backward motion, stop motion, and dissolve. The filmmaker used a lot of long shot every time he wants to show the flat situation. The close-up shot and reaction shot both add to the humor of the film. My favorite scene in the film is when Mr. Golikov swings his leg around while ordering Parasha to do her duty.
Mother is a film directed by Vsevolod Pudovkin in 1926. This film is based entirely on Maxim Gorky's novel. The narrative unfolds in early 20th century Russia as tension built among the regulation and revolutionaries. The mother becomes an unsuspecting accomplice in the arrest of her progressive son, Pavel, and becomes a part of the workers' movement that supports his escape. During its initial release in 1920, the picture received overwhelming praise for its dramatic storyline and outstanding progressive message. This film shows us the strong will of a mother carrying the family on her back although she faces a lot of obstacles in her life. It is also make us realize that we need to appreciate women, especially our mother that give their everything to keep the family in a good shape. This film is a propaganda film. It is hidden by the drama of a mother forced to choose whether to side on her corrupted husband or imprisoned son. But later, we can see that what Pavel fight for, the workers' right. At that time, the Russians were facing the oppression shown by the ruling government. They were forced to work overtime with a very low wage. After years of being oppressed, they demand the government to reduce the work time and raise the payment for their hard work. It was thought that anyone who tried to voice out will get punished immediately by the government. The film provides double confirmation that we see the living conditions in Russia in 1905, but it also uses ice as a metaphor. There are various moments in which we observe ice breaking away at the ocean. It essentially symbolizes that the ancient order is slowly, nevertheless, certainly coming apart. That is not the most effective Vsevolod Pudovkin film, but it is certainly an excellent one, if only as a historical reference. Besides propaganda, this film shows the true love of a mother towards her family. Pelagaya, the mother, is physically weak woman, married to an alcoholic, abusive, and corrupted husband. Even though she was abused a lot by her husband, she still loves him and wants him to stay safe and alive. She still shows her effort to keep Zalov and Pavel eat enough food every day. Besides, she still fought for her imprisoned son after Pavel joined forces to fight against the government for the workers' right.
I guess that's it for me. Bye.
アイスクリーム